Have you ever had a cavity and then got a filling done and then all of a sudden have some pain with your tooth? Well, you're not alone. In this video, I'm gonna go over why your tooth might be hurting after a filling, but also what you can do about it and when you should start to worry about it. So what exactly happens during a filling? So I drew a little diagram to help explain what's going on. So let's say on this left image, you have your full tooth, but this little dot right here is a cavity. So this is how cavities start. They start on the outer layer of your tooth or in your enamel. So this outer part is the enamel and it starts as this little hole. But what happens is these bacteria, they're basically trying to penetrate inside the tooth and the enamel is so hard. So once it can get through this enamel in this little hole, then it can start to get on the inner portion of the tooth. Inside of this enamel is called the dentin. The dentin is a lot weaker than the enamel. So once it's inside here and the dentin, it can start to spread. These bacteria can start to multiply and eat away at the tooth a lot faster. So now the only way to fix this is by removing this bad part of the tooth first. So in this right image, this is where all that bad part is removed. So it might look like a tiny hole at first, and you might just think, oh, I can just zip it out. But actually, when you get in there, you see that this cavity is actually a lot bigger. So here, once it's all cleaned out and you have all healthy tooth structure again, now you can fill it. And if you notice, this red part right here is the nerve inside of the tooth. So every single tooth has a nerve inside of it that's basically keeping it alive. And this nerve is what's like the blood supply to the tooth. It's carrying these minerals to help keep the tooth healthy. And anytime you get closer to this nerve, the tooth is more likely to get more sensitive. So this is probably the number one reason that you would have pain after a filling is if the cavity is really, really deep. If it's really, really close to this nerve and it's borderline touching that nerve, then you're more likely to have sensitivity after. But really, anytime you work on a tooth, anytime you remove some tooth structure, you're basically aggravating the tooth. It's kind of like you're bruising the tooth and it takes time to heal. Because also this dentin or the inner layer of the tooth has these nerve endings. So it's basically a signal to the nerve. So luckily you're numb during the whole procedure, but once that numbness wears off, you can start to get that sensitivity. Another reason your tooth might be hurting is if your bite is high. You know, after you get a filling done, they have you chomp on that paper and they're basically just checking to see how your bite is. Well, you're probably numbed when they're doing that, so it's probably hard for you to tell if it feels good. But when you go home and every time you start to chew, it starts to hurt on that one tooth, it probably means that you're hitting a little bit too hard. And you don't have to be hitting that much harder to start getting a lot of inflammation and a lot of pain in that tooth. Even if you're hitting like a couple microns differently, you can start to notice it and it can start to hurt. But luckily this is really easy to fix because you can just go back to the dentist and they can just adjust it and make it feel better. Now it could also be the dental materials themselves that are making you more sensitive. So anytime you do a filling, it's very technique sensitive. There's a lot of different steps involved with doing a filling. So just removing the decay is one part, but now when you're actually filling it, that's a whole separate part. For example, if you're doing a white filling or a composite filling, then isolation is very important, meaning you cannot let any saliva or any water infiltrate this area while you are filling it because that composite does not like to be wet. So you have to make sure you keep it really dry, but you can't make it too dry. So if the tooth is not dry enough, or if it's over dried, like you sprayed too much air and dried it too much, both of those can cause it to be sensitive after too. And the other thing about white fillings or these composite fillings is they kind of contract. So basically after that filling is done, it kind of pulls itself together. And that kind of pulls against the walls of your tooth. And that can also make your tooth feel sensitive. Luckily, the sensitivity usually fades gradually, so it can just go away on its own. But if it doesn't, or if this pain starts to get worse, then we might have an issue. Keep in mind, anytime you are working on a tooth, anytime you're removing some tooth structure, you were irritating that nerve inside the tooth. And everyone will respond differently. Most people will be totally fine, but once in a while, people might respond in a way where their nerve just gets super, super inflamed. What might happen is this pain might start to linger. So some symptoms to look out for when you might want to call your dentist are if your pain is still going on for like a couple weeks after your filling, or if your sensitivity is starting to get worse, like immediately after the filling, it was fine, and then a couple weeks later, it started to get worse. Or if your tooth is sensitive and lingers. So if you drink something cold and the tooth is sensitive for a little bit, but it goes away pretty quickly, that's not too worrisome. It's probably normal healing. But if you drink something cold and it gets super sensitive and it lingers, it doesn't go away, like 30 seconds or a minute goes by and you're still feeling it, that's a sign that the tooth might need a root canal. And that's basically a sign that that nerve inside that tooth is super inflamed and it's not not gonna heal. It's just gonna keep aggravating you. Or if you ever start to get pain that wakes you up at night or just spontaneously starts throbbing, those are all signs that you might wanna go to the dentist and get it looked at. What you don't wanna do is just tough it out and assume it's gonna get better, because at this point, it might not get better. Now, if you're in the healing state where it's still sensitive but it's not lingering, it can still be annoying. So what you can do at home is, one, avoid chewing on that side, and this is assuming that you don't have to go get a bite adjustment, it's just normal healing because of sensitivity. Avoid aggravating that side. You can also use a sensitivity toothpaste, so like any toothpaste that says it's for sensitivity, because these toothpastes have minerals in it that can basically block off those nerve endings and prevent you from feeling that sensitivity. And also, if possible, you can avoid really hot, really cold foods and really sweet foods, because all three of these can actually aggravate that nerve even more. And then if you need to, you can take like over-the-counter pain medications like an ibuprofen if you can. It's great because it can lower the inflammation in the area too. That being said, if you do have some sensitivity after a filling, just know that it can be completely normal and it should just heal on its own. But if you're worried, make sure you contact your dentist to get it looked at. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I hope you liked that video. If you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to my channel below. And I will see you in the next video. Like most Americans, or most people I should say, you probably love coffee. But do you ever wonder what it's doing to your smile? Say cheese! This video might show how your favorite drink could be secretly destroying your smile. But luckily, I'm also gonna go over some simple ways to fight back so you can still enjoy that coffee. So don't worry, I'm not gonna tell you to put that coffee